Okay, go ahead and go live.
We lose somebody?
Yep.
And we're live. Hello, everybody.
Hey, painters.
Good evening.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Paul.
And we are with the Go Box and Vinego Artist Bar. We're streaming from Sherwood, Oregon.
There's a pretty good chance most of you guys know who we are at this point.
Maybe. It's nice to see so many of you waiting for the video.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people really liked your painting.
Yay! Yay for me!
Yeah, yay for you.
All right. What you got?
So, I haven't got anything.
Okay.
Where are your brushes at? Oh, they're in your water.
They're in my water.
So let's talk about what kind of... Actually, let's show them the painting.
Yeah. Boy, we're starting off awkward and tongue-tied.
Yeah, we just found out a family cat died, so...
Yeah, my parents' cat died this evening, and so we just found that out, like 10 minutes ago, and we're just kind of like,
a little shook.
She was like over 20, so it was like kind of a... Anyway, so this is what we're painting, Rocky Cove. Rocky Cove. So we always laugh because we're from Oregon, and for those of you who are familiar with the movie The Goonies, it was filmed in Astoria, Oregon, and so it's near and dear to our hearts. And of course, we were kind of the same age as The Goonies when The Goonies came out.
We were absolutely the same age.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is a fun painting. I love doing
is that
lighthouses.
Astoria?
No.
It could be.
It would be if there was a pirate ship.
So if you're on the East Coast, that's the sunrise.
Yeah.
If you're on the West Coast, the sun is
sunset. And I think this painting would be absolutely fine without the lighthouse if you wanted to skip it. Just kind of depends. What do we got? We got a question already?
No, Anna Hale.
Anna Hale.
Anna. They're actually on vacation in South Fork, Colorado. That's awesome.
Nice.
Painting while on vacation.
That's
cool.
a good thing. So, anyway, what do you got? Anything to talk about tonight?
No, I think you can just show your paint colors and get us started. So
I will give you a little bit of a heads up on this painting. If you are new to this and this is your first attempt at painting, or second attempt, maybe if you tried the painting from the other night, this painting on the surface maybe looks pretty complicated. But when we break it on down to the single little parts, I saw you roll your eyes. As long as we don't let the sum of the little parts overwhelm us, we'll be fine. Just worry about the one little thing at a time that we work on, and we'll be good to go. This one we get to blend a little bit, but we also have some opportunities to cover awkward little blend points, and we'll work through those as we get there.
Somehow, over the years of teaching at the studio, 10 years now, Paul manages to pull these paintings together and get the painters to do them and do an awesome job. I always look at it and I say, what do I say every time you design a painting?
You're like George Bush Sr. Knock down that. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do it.
I always say the same thing. Is it teachable?
Yeah, that's it. Can you teach that?
He manages to do it, so you guys can do it.
Yeah,
I know you can. I've seen 32 people at a time do it in the studio.
What I would suggest is, at any point in time, if you feel like you need to pause and rewind a little bit, go for it. Less is more when we go with the paint. So start with less paint on the brush as we get going, and we'll walk through that. Let's start off with a toast, though, Jenny. Let's toast to the memory of Rosie the kitty, and trying new things like painting. Cheers.
Cheers. Hey, you should give them that quote that you found today. That was so cool.
Hold on, let me pull it up.
And then we'll get started. I promise.
Let me pull it up. I don't want to paraphrase it. Hold on, I got it right here.
You don't have it right.
I don't have it right here. Hold on. I'll get it.
Here, I'll tell them
Jenny,
the
say
colors.
something.
I'll tell you guys the colors. So you guys who get the Go Box kit, you've got your colors already. Our bonus color this month was metallic gold. We hardly use any in this painting unless you want more. But we've got our white and black. We have sapphire blue, ruby red, and daffodil yellow. And this is probably a little more paint than needed. I was squirting it out of half-gallon bottles, so comes out kind of fast.
Okay, I couldn't find the quote, but I'll paraphrase it.
I've got it. I got it because you
just to give you a heads up, what I was working on today was expanding our online community capability of our website, and I came up with this great quote.
It applies to all of us here.
Yeah.
Great. It wants me to sign in.
Yeah, so I'll just paraphrase it. The paraphrase is, if you would like to go quickly, go alone. If you would like to go far, go with others.
Yes.
So we're going to build our online community. We're going to go far together. and I'm going to post a lot of stuff in there. So anyway, let's get started. We already toasted. We talked about things we didn't need to talk about. We're ready to rock and roll, lock and load. Colors. So basically what we're going to start off with is I'm going to start with my biggest paintbrush, and I already have mine sitting in the jar just because it needed to be out of the way. But we're going to mix up this kind of stormy blue color. And the primary color in that we're going to use is we're going to use our dark blue, our sapphire.
Imagine that.
And add a little bit of white to it. And I tend to mix smaller batches than Jenny does. Jenny tends to mix a lot of paint at once, and I tend to mix just a little bit at a time and then constantly add.
Hence why I started having my own palette.
Exactly.
So you put daffodil in there?
Yeah, let me get people caught up. I'm putting just a little bit of daffodil in there, not very much, just to kind of bring it down, and I'm going to add just the tiniest little dab of black as well. So we got basically primarily blue, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of black, and quite a bit of white.
This looks like Oregon Coast
It
color.
looks like dirty denim.
Tip the Oregon Coast color.
There you go, exactly. Isn't it funny, for those of you who don't live in Oregon, and have never lived in Oregon, I know there's, as I'm seeing our boxes go out, there's more and more.
Color.
We don't call it the beach in Oregon. We call it the coast.
I always call it the beach.
Well, some people do, but primarily we call it the coast because the beach is someplace you put on a bathing suit and go swimming.
True.
We put on parkas and try not to have our children blow away in the wind. So anyway, so what we're going to start off with is this painting is really, it's got our horizon line is about a third of the way up from the canvas. From the bottom of the canvas, and really I'm just going to start, and I'm using the chisel edge to just kind of create some horizontal little streaks and smudges. And if you wanted to use a medium-sized brush for this part, that's totally fine. But I feel like the larger brush carries paint better and just works well. And don't worry about it if it's a little bit too intense at this point, because we're going to come back in and we can add more things going on. I'm kind of trying to stay somewhat horizontal along this bottom edge.
Oh, and for reference, this is the sky part with the clouds.
Yes. Well, no, it's not. This is the sky part with
the sun.
Yeah.
I saw these little blue things as clouds. Sorry.
They kind of are a little. Yeah, they are. But I don't want you to think about clouds, because then people start painting iCloud logos.
This is the sky part with horizontal streaks.
Yep. That's right. So basically what I want to do is I want to come up about 3 inches or so. Actually, I say that a lot. I want to. No, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be confident and we're going to own it. We're going to come up about 3 inches, and then we're just going to take this color all the way across again. We're going to hide this cleverly with a cloud bank in the future, so it's okay. What we're going to do now, we're going to use more of this color in a bit, so I want to mix up a fresh little bit of color, and I can see you guys can see my palette. So I'm going to take a little bit of red.
You didn't wash your brush?
No, I'm not going to worry about it yet. Where I would be concerned about washing my brush at this point is if I feel the brush sticking to the canvas, and that means that the paint is starting to dry on my brush. So I'm mixing up a lavender that leans red.
So you did red, sapphire, and white.
Yep, red, sapphire, and white. And I want this to be, again, a lavender that leans red. So it's almost going to be pink, but just enough blue in it. And basically what I want to do, this is kind of a technique I've learned recently as far as teaching people. I like to start a little bit above where I stopped. Kind of get some color on there. I'm going to wipe my brush off.
Kristen, it's nice to see you on here again.
And so basically what I'm doing is I'm starting this fresh band of color a little bit above where I quit. I'm going to wipe my brush off, and I'm just going to go back and forth with my brush so that it kind of feathers into both those bands of colors. And you see that kind of gives us a nice little blend.
A little gradient going on there.
Yeah, a little gradient. We don't need to worry about it too much because we're going to be putting the clouds in there. I'm going to add a little bit more red to my mix and a little bit more white. I really feel like in the finished painting, I want this to be really vibrantly cotton candy-ish.
Right now what you have is more of a
It's a little...
Like a blackberry yogurt.
Yeah, it could be a little bit lighter. Just add a little bit more white. And probably what we'll do is we'll add a little bit more white to it before we put our little cloud bank in. One of the things that I think is... Oh, didn't clean
Actually, I'd leave that. That looks kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm just going to add a little bit more white. Anytime I'm adding color when we're doing this gradient, and I think this is the trickiest thing to teach when we're teaching in the studio, is I will take a fresh color and I'll just keep adding to, and I'll do just like we did with that transition. I'll kind of start right above the line. And I'm going to wipe, I've got a lot of blue in the brush there. And I just kind of come back and I use my brush to soothe things out between the two.
Soothe.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never used that term before while teaching.
Soothing. We're soothing the canvas.
Hey, baby, let's smooth this out.
Hey, you know what I realized just a minute ago?
What's that?
Tonight's WandaVision night.
It is WandaVision night. So it's kind of a bummer we didn't get to paint on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, well, we did, actually. We came in here and streamed it early.
You did.
Yeah.
As I work my way up, I've kind of got my natural right-handed little angle going there. I'm going to try to break that up a little bit. So one thing that's interesting about Valentine's Day, since these colors are reminding me of Valentine's Day, Jenny's birthday was last Tuesday. My birthday was on Saturday, and then Valentine's Day was on Sunday. So we, for as long as we've been together as a couple, which has been 27 years.
Next month. That's what you said the other day.
Yeah, 27 years.
Well,
we've been friends. We've been friends for longer because we were friends in school before we started dating.
Yeah, but not that much longer, like 6 months.
Just a couple. Yeah, I don't even think it was 6 months. It was like 4 months. It was like, I can't control myself. Don't friend zone me. But we don't even really celebrate any of those one individual things anymore. It's all just one big week-long... Well, it used to be a party. Now it's more just denial that we're getting old.
Yeah, you had a little midlife crisis moment on your birthday.
I did?
The pizza.
That wasn't my birthday.
Yes, it was. That was on your birthday. It was Saturday.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
That was the day before. It was Friday night. I was making pizza for the kids.
Okay.
Because we couldn't go get pizza because we were all iced in.
We were iced in, and he always makes pizza, and it turns out really good. And this time, for whatever reason, the planets didn't align. Mercury was in retrograde, whatever. The pizza stuck to the pan so hardcore.
I was pretty much the dad from A Christmas Story. And I was yelling at the bumpuses and everything. I was like, bumpuses, some bitches. You know, it was just it was crazy.
Doing that. But he was like,
oh, fudge.
Scraping it, trying to scrape it off the pan, and I'm there like keeping my mouth shut because I had literally...
You were not keeping your mouth shut.
No, I was keeping my mouth shut about the stove because I had scrubbed it that morning.
I cleaned it. All right. So one thing that I would tell you guys right now is don't be bashful using we're getting off the rails really easy. People are bailing out. They're like, oh my gosh, these people are nuts. Don't be bashful about blending in some white more in here. It'll just create a more dynamic, stormy look when we get all done. And I'm big into that high contrast. All right, so kind of got our sky done. I'm going to try to get rid of that 45-degree angle thing that's going on a little bit.
You hate that.
I do. It just is so...
It's so funny.
Yeah. All right, so that's good for now. I'm going to rinse my brush.
This canvas came in with the weirdest dent in it. It's like the staples pulled really tight on one part.
Oh, if you guys... We're going to do a video on this, but if you ever get a canvas from us that comes in with a dent, it happens all the time. We get them in with dents.
Sometimes I get them in shipping.
Yeah.
To you.
And all you got to do is just... I like to take a wet paper towel. Just flip it over and rub it on the back, or even just take like a couple tablespoons of water and just slosh it around in the back.
Spritzer bottle with water.
Yeah, we're going to do a video on how to fix that. It can always be fixed. The only time it can't be fixed for the most part is if there's actually a puncture. But we'll do a video on that. We're going to start doing some little helpful tips, like how to take care of your brushes and stuff like that, coming up shortly. All right, so rinse your brush. Rinse it real good.
Oh, and those of you who you like watching the videos, maybe you learn some things and you're not painting.
Yeah.
We are live streaming tomorrow night a date night
Oh my
class
gosh.
that was it was scheduled for last Saturday night, but because of the ice, our power was out at the studio, and Annalise, it was a Zoom event.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're doing it as a live stream on YouTube.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
you can come in the same Go Box Art Crate YouTube page tomorrow and watch it. It's a sunrise with 2 elk.
Cool. And we're going to teach that one instead.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Are we going to both paint together?
Yeah,
Or are
yeah.
you just... Okay. All right, cool. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to work our way down. And so we're... Normally, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll kind of stay consistent with our colors and do this part and then the lower part, that's the same color. But this time around, I wanted to get this little transition in a little bit more effectively, so we went ahead and worked our way up. Now we're going to work our way down. So we're going to go back to this color that we started with. Rinse your brush really, really well. I'll give you a hint. The water does the work of loosening the pigment up from your bristles, and then the towel is actually what cleans your brush.
So we're doing Stormy Blue again.
Stormy blue, but we're going to add a touch more blue, so it's just and a little bit more yellow, so it's just a little bit darker.
And greener.
Actually, let me put it this way. Let's rephrase that. We're going to add a little less white.
Okay.
Still want it to be fairly light. We don't want it to be too dark. There we go. That's good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start right on my horizon line again. And it should just be just a touch darker. And since we're doing the water, I might go, I need a little bit more paint. A little bit more black.
See, told you.
A little bit more yellow. A little bit more white. There we go. All right. I want to, one of the things that kind of gets lost when we do seascapes in particular is our way, like right now it looks like we're looking across the water already, but we're looking at the sky. And one of the things that gets lost is we tend to start too big of bold brush strokes at the top close to the horizon. So I'm going to use the thin edge of my brush, and I'm going to kind of mimic what we did up in the sky, but I'm going to start really pretty small with this little variations and gradients. And as I get away, I'm going to mimic that this is a little bit darker over here. And as I work my way down the canvas, what we're doing is we're actually like working our way through the tunnel, getting closer. I can start getting a little bit bolder with these brush strokes. And I'm keeping these horizontal, especially when you're doing the ocean and you're looking across, you're only seeing horizontal planes. You're not seeing vertical shapes at all. We go about halfway down and get this side over here pretty nice and dark. A lot of
Looks
this
like it gets covered with a rock.
Yeah, it gets covered with the rock. You can get this other side nice and dark too. Not a lot of paint on your brush. You don't want to slather it up too much. And as I kind of start getting down to this bottom, so we did about halfway down. As we start getting a little further down, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to add a little bit of red to my Stormy mix. This probably doesn't say this in the instructions, but that's how we're doing it.
Deviating.
You know, what's funny is I've looked at some other companies that do other types of art mail order. They don't even give you that much instruction. Here's a picture. Here's a picture of where, point A to point B, but no verbiage on how to get there.
Oh, on the instruction sheets?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day, how it's like there was instructions for a bee because I ordered a kit and it was like eyes, antenna, wings.
It was a title of the step. It had absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with what the actual step was. I'm going to add a little bit more red, and at this point we can actually just start add a little bit of white.
We're doing a red beach, huh?
Well, what we're doing is we're mimicking the pink from the sky.
Oh, yeah.
It might be I was 19. Just let me think of it that way.
That's funny.
I was pretty smooth back then.
You were. So I had...
I don't know what happened, but I don't know what happened. I used to be.
What happened? The thing I'll never forget on our first date is that we were at college and you're like, let's go to lunch. So, I mean, I consider that like our first
Oh, you're
technical
counting
date.
that as our first date?
Well, I mean, like our first technical.
Didn't we go to Albertsons and get deli food?
No, I think we went to Izzy's Pizza. It was right next to the college. But I remember, like, you opened your car door for me, which was really sweet, but then you had to push a bunch, you had to wipe a bunch of Parmesan cheese off.
Well, I was a pizza delivery
That's
guy.
right. You were like, oh, sorry, there's a bunch of Parmesan cheese on the seat.
I was a pizza delivery guy. What do you expect?
I didn't mind. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I like that. I like little quirky, funny things. Life is too serious. That's what I liked. I liked that you were quirky and funny.
Well, you beat that out of me.
That's so mean to say right now. You're horrible.
You know how many times I just bite my tongue when you say things like that?
What?
Yeah, it's true. All right.
Oh boy.
This might get ugly before it's all over. I'm just mixing up a little bit of that stormy color again, a little bit lighter. So I just added some white.
So you added white to the mix that doesn't have the red in it.
Right. I just mixed up a little bit of fresh of that stormy color. I'm just adding a little bit
Blue,
of white.
yellow, white, and black.
And I'm just going to kind of come back through these lighter white areas because I don't want them to be quite so white yet. Be careful when you do that you don't get a big glob of black on your paint or something like that. But, I mean, if you do, no big deal. You can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put some waves and stuff through here anyway, so it's not a big deal.
It's kind of what these are. They're the waves in the distance. I remember the first time I went on a charter boat to go deep sea fishing. I was like I was 19. I was dating you at that time, but I went with my dad. And all those little ripples that look so small out in the ocean. No, they're like 20-foot swells. You'll get seasickness. I remember like that was like the ultimate like whoa moment.
So if you feel like you got too much of that light and you feel like you want to bring some of that contrast back, you can always come back with a little bit of just pure white. It's okay for this to be a little bit muddy in the water.
Oh, Lori wants to know if she'll be able to watch this and paint it later.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be up here as long as we have a YouTube channel, which will hopefully be for years and years and years and years. So it's available for anyone. You don't have to be a subscriber.
She's like, I'm going to wait till they're done and just push mute.
Okay,
That's
mine looks remarkably like yours
It
again.
does.
I'm getting better.
So we show them. I'll show them
Okay.
side by side. Wow, they look like the same sloppy mess. That's good. All right, so the next step we're going to work on is basically, like, if you've painted with me before, you know that we rely a bit on layering to create depth, which is what we're going to do with the water. The water right now is like, if you actually look at the finished painting, I'll bring it up here. All of this water that we just painted really breaks down into this little section here is about all that gets left when we're all said and done. So that's why I wasn't too worried about it getting a little bit muddy. What we're going to do next is we're going to switch brushes.
All right.
And the main reason we're switching brushes is so that we can get a little bit of purity. It doesn't really have to be super pure. It's kind of funny, this painting, when I first painted it, there was no pink in it at all. It was all just stormy blue and didn't even have any of this yellow, and I liked it for the way I paint, but it needed a little bit more. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take a little bit of yellow. We're going to go about 1 part yellow to about 2 parts white, thereabouts. We're going to go for a real pale whipped butter.
This must be for the sunset?
It's for our sky color.
Or sunrise?
Yeah, sunrise, sunset. It's just for our glow in the sky. This should all be pretty close to dry by now.
Okay.
If it's not, pause and wait for a minute if you want to. But I don't want this to be super vibrantly yellow. In fact, I'm going to tilt my canvas a little bit. You can barely see the shift in color, and that's exactly what we want. You can be a little bit bold with this and let some of this trail over on top of some of your blue little streaks that you've put in. Do you remember how much I used to eat back then?
We had good metabolisms then.
Well, I was playing college baseball and exercising like 5 hours a day. I think I was probably eating around 6,000 calories a day.
Okay, Michael Phelps.
Yeah. At 175 pounds. What happened?
Those were the good old days, man. What happened?
What happened?
Even for me, it was just like 8 years ago. When it hits, it hits. Your metabolism, you hit a certain age, and it's just like, nope, sorry, closed for business forever.
I gained that pregnancy weight, and it just really had a hard time coming off.
The sympathy weight.
Totally.
I think my little horizon area with the sunset / sunrise is a bit bigger than yours.
It might be.
Is that all right?
Yeah, and the thing is we will probably come back in and add some more of our cloudiness to kind of soften things up. It's all about layering. You know, it's rough, but you don't want to be like Monet would probably just slather the paint on and walk away and be like, I'm good. I'm gonna have to look up how to say I'm good in French, but
hey, that reminded me, you guys who get the box, starting next month,
What?
you're gonna get fun stickers in your box every month. A fun
Every month?
sticker, and it has an artist and an artist quote, and I designed him. I had so much fun designing him. And looking up the quotes, and some of them I already had my favorite quotes.
What are you mixing
saved.
up?
I am actually
Jumping ahead?
Well, I don't like how mine's a little too
Well, we're
straight.
not done yet.
Okay.
Jeez.
But yeah, the stickers are gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, and we added some Go Box mugs on our website, so some
Yeah.
swag. And then Jenny ordered some fun Monet and
A bunch of Bob Ross swag.
Oh, Bob Ross and Van Gogh swag.
Yeah, and some Frida Kahlo. So that'll appear on our website as soon as we receive it.
Yep. The Go Box mugs are on there already.
So I got this magnet set with Bob Ross where you can, it's like a full figure Bob Ross. It's probably about maybe 7 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes with all these outfits and wigs that
cool.
are magnets, so you can completely dress him up.
It's like with those paper dolls back in the day.
Yeah. I'll have to show it in one of the videos.
All right, I'm going to switch back to my biggest brush, y'all. My family's from Alabama, so I can yawl once in a while. And we'll come back and we'll add some other softer clouds and a little extra white glow in the middle here. But I'm going to go back to my biggest brush for right now.
Okay.
Give it a quick little rinse. And what we're going to mix up is we're going to mix up a deeper violet color. So I'm just going to start with some red. I'm just going to kind of keep mixing in this stormy area. About equal parts blue to red.
Grape soda.
Yeah, and I think if anything, if you want to lean one direction from red, from violet, you probably want to lean a little bit towards the red side rather than blue side. So you got to trust your eyes and say, hey, when I put it on here, does it look too blue? Go a little bit towards the red side. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this color now, and I'm going to go right along this transition between where we carefully blended everything, right? Mm-hmm. But we want to go ahead and go right across.
Looks like we must be building the big cloud.
We're going to start there. We're going to let that bottom edge be nice and harsh. I mean, you don't want to try to blend it out. If you want to, add some little choppiness underneath, you can. Just don't try to blend it out. Now, this is the trick. We're basically, my brush stroke is almost like a little bit of a swirl. I'm going to come up pretty high on this side. So I always try to think about the billowy nature of clouds and movement. There we go. Tilt that.
Probably not a lot of paint on the brush either.
Not a lot of paint on the brush.
Because that will give you those hazy edges.
Yeah. And I'm just going to kind of start working across. Now I got that Bangles song in my head. Hazy Shade of Winter. You remember that one?
Yep. I think I used to roller skate to that when we had the roller skating rink where I grew up.
Yeah. I love the Bengals. They were
It's funny it's funny how memories are triggered. Whenever someone mentions the Bengals or I hear a song from them, I always think about that roller skating rink. Something must have happened to the Bengals there.
You know what I'm really happy about? You probably made out with some guy when you were like 13.
No, that was gone when I was 13.
Oh, okay. I'm glad that the first song by the Bengals that doesn't pop to my head is Walk Like an Egyptian, because that song was...
Now you just put it in everybody's head.
Sorry. Paint like an Egyptian. Wow. Not my favorite song. I remember the other day I was playing guitar and singing, and you're like, "Are you singing Eternal Flame by the Bengals?" I'm like, "Hey, yeah."
And I thought roller skating rink.
The guy I made out with when I was 12.
That is not true.
It's totally true.
I probably wanted something like that to happen, but no, it didn't.
You thought about
to me.
It was going on in your noggin.
Probably happened to my friend.
Yeah. Why has it never happened to me? You just got to be more aggressive and take the bull by the horns.
Nah, I'm good.
You're good now. You're 40. Oh, no. You're 37.
Thanks.
You're older than me. That's all I know.
4 days.
4 days. Yep, it's true.
So this could become mountains.
It totally could.
Look at it. It could be mountains and a lake.
Yeah, I'm going to tilt this a little bit. It's pretty dark right now, but we're going to come back with some pink and soften that up. Or you can leave it like this. Either way. Like always, my new painting's more intense. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and lighten this up with some pink while it's still wet. So I'm just going to add a little bit more red to this color that we had mixed up. A little bit of white. Kind of go for a little cotton candy. And actually, I'm going to switch brushes. So, yes, we kind of improvise a little bit sometimes while we're teaching. I'm just going to take a little bit of this color. And it maybe needs a little bit more red. If you're finding that it's blending into your sky a little bit, just add a little bit more color. This is a messy process.
Are we focusing primarily on the top edge of the clouds?
Yeah, and I don't want to think about it too much.
Okay.
Mostly we're just adding texture, we're adding...
lightness.
Color. Yeah. I'll tilt this a little bit so you can see it. Just adding some texture to it. What I don't want is, for me personally, it's up to you guys. You can kind of make your own adjustments. I don't want to get too rigidly detailed in this part. Sometimes it looks good, and some people are able to pull it off really well, where they, hyper detail everything. It does not work for me, personally, and that's just my skill set, and more my patience.
Hyper details, a lot of.
You know what I mean, though, where it's like,
work.
I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about like really. Putting really rigid highlights and stuff on the clouds and like everything being in focus. We kind of want it. We don't want everything to be in focus. We only want, it's like a camera. When you take a picture with a DSLR, a nice 35 millimeter camera or something like that, you're not going to get everything in detail. You're just going to get your focal points. And that's what I try to do when I'm painting. And I'm going to take my brush, actually. I saw you were softening this up a bit.
Are you copying me?
Yeah. My brush is just a little bit damp. And I'm just kind of taking some of this color. You can always bring some of that dark color back. Yeah, I don't want to overwork it. It's easy to overwork it. I've got this really dark color here. That feels a little too much to me. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to put some pink highlights on the underside of this in a bit. Let's go ahead and do it now, actually. I'm going to mix up my cotton candy. Now this is because our glow is actually really down here. You can go a little bit more red in this. We got anybody? Am I scaring anybody? Everybody doing all right?
You're scaring everybody.
No, I know. So yeah, like that little bit of color that might be a little bit too bold. I'm just going to put a little bit on here, and then what I'll do is wipe my brush off so I don't have more color. And you can just kind of smudge this out. Getting too focused on the clouds, I think. It happens.
You know, there's a painter that I've told you about a million times because your sister, I found out about him because your sister bought some of his original work. He's in New Mexico. Actually, I think Arizona now. I would love to see you try to do clouds like he does.
Oh, I'm sure it would be interesting.
Yeah, so it's William Hawkins, for any of you guys. The paintings are phenomenal. And I know you could do it, Paul, because you're talking about the not over detailing, and his are just like big, huge, bold brush strokes, but you look at it and you're like, that's a cloud formation. It's got all the shadows and highlights. So.
I started to get over cocky and say I'm sure I could do it. But
yeah. Jeez.
That happens sometimes. I have this like element from being a college athlete that just there's this certain amount of confidence that sometimes I have to remember to bring back down a little bit.
I'm going to make you do one of those paintings.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do it. We'll do one inspired by him for April.
All right.
All right, cool. So this is good. What we can do is like, this is actually a really good place to be right now. We're going to start bringing in our rock formations, and we will start also adding some, actually before we do that, we're going to add a little bit more definite ridges for some waves.
Yeah.
Then we'll do our rock formations, and really the hard part of this painting's done.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh, okay.
I guess maybe the lighthouse itself, just because you have to have...
I don't see the lighthouse as being hard. I see the waves as being more difficult. And the front ones, the foam and all that.
Oh, well, no, that's not. Well, once we break it all down. This area... Oh, man. We pointed it out to you, Jenny, but not everybody else. This little area right here tends to, I think, be something that looks intimidating, but the way we're going to teach it, it really works out pretty well.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. All right, cool. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to go to my medium-sized brush.
And some of you might have the red set. Here, I'll pop it over here.
You might have your
Which
own
is
brushes.
what I'm using.
Yeah.
A lot of our subscribers have these.
Yep, and basically you just want something that's around the 1/4 inch diameter.
So that would be your
width.
number 8 flat right here.
Yep. I'm going to make our stormy color. A little bit of blue, a little bit of black, a little bit of yellow. I did those in completely different order, but you know what I'm talking about. We want this to be a little bit darker yet, and I'm actually going to add a little bit more yellow to this because I really want it to be this, like, let me get this here, this dirty denim kind of color. Maybe a little bit towards the green. Don't worry about that yellow. It's going to be totally dominated by the black and the blue. But I want this to be fairly nice and dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down from our horizon line, maybe about 1/2 inch or so, and I want to put one nice...
Making sure mine's...
Yeah. You're cheating. Nobody else can do that.
Okay, sorry.
I'm going to take this... I need a little bit darker.
Okay.
So a little bit more blue, a little bit more black. There we go. And the reason I said that is when I started to put this on the canvas, I can see, oh, that just is not quite enough darker than this area up here. And that's a little better. I'm going to take this one line and just kind of meander across.
Whoa, what's happening here?
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
Trust me.
I'm trusting. I'm doing the exact
You're
same
not
thing
trusting
here.
me at
No,
all.
I'm doing it. I think I know what this is.
Yeah. And I'm just going to take this bottom edge of this and just smudge it out. So I wipe my brush off. Clean, dry brush. Well, cleanish brush. Not adding more paint.
So you're using your brush as a smudge tool now.
Yep. Mostly horizontal. You can pull down a bit. There we go. That's the start of a wave. It's, maybe a little bit bolder than the original painting, but oh well. All right. And what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to take a little bit more of this color and just kind of add some little streaks, mostly in the foreground. You can do a little bit in the background, just along the edges if you want, but just very small. You don't want to get too dark in the back part of the waves, because it'll real quickly become too dark in the background. A little bit along this edge is going to be just fine. All right, so coming down from that area, I'm just going to add some more little streaks. And the paint is going on thin, guys. Guys and gals, as my dad would say. We're not getting too heavy with the paint. Same thing, just going to kind of smudge out this bottom edge. A lot of this is going to get covered with rocks and other stuff going on. Ooh, that looks good. I like that. I think that was a good choice. Sometimes we improvise a little bit, don't we?
Yeah.
Jenny's like, never.
No.
I never deviate from the instructions.
That is not true at all. Listen to you, tossing me under the bus all night.
I know, it feels good.
That's so rude. Oh my gosh.
It's payback time. I'm joking, I'm kidding.
Better be.
My cat sister died tonight. I'm feeling in a mood.
Rosie.
So Rosie is actually the aunt of our cat.
Yep.
So, all right. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take a little bit more black and add it to this mix. And I hope you guys can see that. Yeah, you can see my palette. This is going to be pretty close to black as a whole. You can add a little bit more blue to it just to bolster it. We don't want it to be pure black, but it could be. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm going to start creating these rocks that are on the left-hand side of the canvas. Now, this is really, it's not just a rock. So they're more actual, like a jetty almost.
Okay.
Or
like Cape Commanda?
Like a cape. Yeah. And so this is going to start out, just really close to the top edge of this the wave. I'm just going to put a fairly horizontal line of this darker color that comes out about halfway across my canvas. And I'm just going to kind of create a little mound here to be a rock. I'm going to create another mound that's fairly flat there for my lighthouse to sit on. Let me fill this in. Now, I don't know if you can hopefully you can tell, but I'm really pretty rough with this process. It's not really a draw and fill, it's more of a blot and dab. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to go right above our horizon line right here. Fill that in. And I'm not... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. If you're teaching painting, go ahead. I was just going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, don't worry about it being like filling it in super solid. If you get little bits of color showing through, that's fine. If you've got a ghost of other stuff going on, meaning you've got you can clearly see the wave detail through this, you probably want to put a little bit more paint. But if you're really just getting some... a little bit of the colors and stuff showing through, that's okay. In fact, I'm actually going to take a little tiny bit of white and blend this in and just tilt that a little bit, just to soften this up a bit. And I'm starting at the bottom, and I'm just kind of just a tiny bit. What I wanted, the reason I'm adding the little bit of white is I want this to feel a little bit lighter than the foreground rocks we're going to do, which are going to be pure black.
I like too how it almost looks like there's either water that's in shadow, so it's like kind of a bluish, or it could even be like fog that's settled in.
Yeah, I get a little bit of glare coming off here. Let me see if I can adjust this light a little bit.
Made it
nope,
more.
That's worse.
That's a little bit better.
Yeah, I'll just tilt it once in a while. We're getting ready to rebuild our desk here where we paint so that this glare and stuff won't be as much of an issue. Might have to invest in a couple more lights too.
What I was going to say earlier
Go for it.
is that I've always thought it would be really cool to live in a lighthouse.
Terrible Tilly down at Tillamook.
I love that one that has the gray lady. Is it Hesita Head? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Hesita.
I think so.
It's super cool. So it's got a ghost apparently. We've been up there a couple times. I've never seen a ghost. But
All right.
super
So
cool.
I got a little instruction here.
Okay, sorry.
I'm gonna take. No, it's okay. I like that story. Because I love going down there. I'm gonna take my bigger flat brush, and I really want to use a flat brush for this. And I'm going to take a little tiny bit of that color. I don't want very much on my brush, so I wipe the extra off. And I'm just going to mimic the rock.
So we're just shading into the water. Is that what the idea is here?
Yep. And you're going to lose some of that, but let me just tilt that a little bit. You're going to lose some of this when we start doing our waves and stuff that are coming in, and that's okay. It's better to lose it than it is to not have it there at all. I always kind of try to think about, like, if I'm painting something like this, that if I stopped right now, would it be done? And obviously we've got work to do left on this painting, but in theory, if I stopped right now on this step, could I call it done? Maybe. I probably wouldn't, but you could.
Some art gallery would take it.
What I mean by that is, would I have to resolve that? No, I would not. So, all right. You good?
Yeah.
Next step? Next step, I'm going to go back to my medium brush.
You don't have to wait for me.
No, I know. I know, because it's like when you teach, I'm always like off on my own little tangent.
Yeah, I noticed.
This time I'm just going to take some pure black. This is what's going to give us the impression that this is closer and it's in the cove. You got another question there?
Très bon is very good in French. Yeah, that's right. That's from Anna.
Awesome.
But I know.
Très bon.
Très bon.
Thank you. Plain black.
Okay, just plain black medium brush.
Yep. Basically, if I were to come down to the end of my rocks, where I stopped, kind of right in this area, down about 1.5 inches, and off to the right maybe another 1/4 inch. So down about 1.5 inches, and to the right about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch.
Okay.
And I'm going to kind of go mostly flat. It can tail down just a little bit. Tail down just a little bit. Dun, 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 dun. You remember that song? It didn't say tail down.
Yes.
All right, same thing. I'm going to build this up. Now this is going to build up to about even with the middle of this other rocky outcrop.
It's funny how differently you and I paint, because a lot of times I'll draw the flat bottom and then I start in the upper, like for this I would start in the upper right area and draw the top of the mountain. You kind of build up, or the top of the rock face. You kind of build up from this edge way out here.
Yeah. It's just two different ways of thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think in some regards, I tend to do that to avoid the drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always something that we battle when we're teaching in the studio, especially like landscapes, is this notion of separating drawing from painting.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember there's a few places that do what we do, and they make the students pre-draw their whole canvas before they paint. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, that's so much stress. You don't.
But there's nothing wrong with, like, if you're painting at home by yourself, there's nothing wrong with pre-drawing everything.
You have to do it with watercolor, but I just with acrylic paint, the only time I pre-draw is if I'm drawing something like a portrait or an animal.
But but like I said, I mean, there's nothing wrong with pre-drawing it. But what you have to be careful is then when you paint it, that you don't just fill in like you're doing like the grocery store coloring contest at Easter.
Paint by numbers.
Yeah, I mean, you just use it as a guide. a loose guide at that. All right, so.
I won one of those one time.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I did too, but that's because I was the boss's kid.
Cheating.
All right, so I'm going to take just a little bit of black now.
Biggest brush?
Biggest brush. If you do it quick enough, you can just use the wet paint on the canvas. That's actually preferable. All right. And a lot of this, again, we're going to be putting water in on top. We're going to be putting some other rocks in. So this is just a real loose, you don't want to be very heavy with this. But it's just a quick little reflection. Again, because if it was just smooth water, there would be a reflection. So we're going to go ahead and put the reflection in, then we're going to roughen the water up.
All right, do it.
Rough it up. Rough it up. I'll take it.
Wow, you're just bringing out all these old hits. Bangles, and that other one.
Wiggle it just a little bit. Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I think I kind of do that most of our painting.
That
classes.
other one that you just said was, isn't that Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother?
Is Jimmy Vaughn
Yeah.
of the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our, what I call rock chatter.
Okay, rock chatter, let's do it.
It's all these little rocks that are in the foreground. Reminds me of that little cove we go to at Yachats.
Yeah, it's our favorite beach.
Yeah. So basically what I want you to do is we're going to get some black paint on our brush. And I like to use this largest brush. You can use your medium-sized brush if you want to. In fact, probably what I'll do is a mix of both. And this is really just kind of we're going to blot in a shape.
This is the part that is so hard for my brain.
Yeah.
That you do so good at, because I always want to like place things, or like spend a little more time planning. Like that, what is this? How is it going to work with the rest of the painting?
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about doing this technique, and this is a technique I actually learned from a watercolor artist by the name of Steve Cronin. He's got a great YouTube channel. If you guys ever want to check out some watercolor, again, his name is Steve Cronin. He's amazing. And there's some things about his watercolor technique that remind me more of an acrylic or oil painter than just simply a watercolor painter.
Shout out to Steve Cronin.
Yeah, he's in the UK, and
you've never mentioned him to me, so that's cool.
well, yeah, I mean, he was, when I started trying some watercolors, he was the guy I worked towards. But again, he treats it more like oil painting, I feel like. But this is very similar to something he would do, a technique he would do. And I'm just going to add a little bit more here. And I'm keeping my brush horizontal, and I'm keeping it, all of my little movements kind of horizontal. And there's a reason for that. And that's when you look across water, you see horizontal planes. Now, we're doing rocks right now, but we're still going to see those horizontal planes. And I'll do a video one of these days, one of the Art of Seeing videos about that. I mean, I've been talking about it. We've done one of Art of Seeing painting in a year, video in a year and a half. We need to do more.
Jeez.
I know, slacking. Well, I mean, I only work like 80 hours a week, so. All right, so I'm going to do a secondary larger black rock here. And anything you put in, just know that, you can, when we put the water in, you can bring the water back up higher. That was my shoe. I don't want to have a Giuliani moment. That was that was my shoe.
Forgot about that.
That wasn't political. That was something that happened, and nobody can. Yeah, you can add a little bit of reflection under this. But I like to think of like when I'm painting something like this, where like this or a river or something like that, I feel like I'm building the terrain, and then we're going to fill it up with water.
Okay.
So that's how I mentally
That's actually a good thought there.
Yeah, that's the way I keep mentally wrap my head around the idea of creating planes and surfaces.
I was wondering how you mentally wrap your head around that.
There's a lot of things that my brain wraps around crazy. All right, so our next step, this is all good. I like the way this is. We're going to, when we start bringing the water in, we're going to be good to go. Our sky's pretty much done. So there's nothing really to worry about with the sky. I want to keep the sky simple. I think a lot of times it's the sky can be something that can, the sky alone can be a crazy painting. That's just too much to handle. Mama, it's sure hard to handle now.
There's more music.
Sorry.
We both were minoring in music in college.
Yeah, that's when we met in music class. So
in fact, our podcast that we always talk about starting that we need to is going to be focused on art and music.
You know what? I'm going to force us into that because I'm buying the equipment
That's
tomorrow.
right. You are. That's right.
Thank you, stimulus check. All right. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to start creating our lighthouse. And the lighthouse, we kind of want to mix the same color that we use here. Maybe a little lighter. So as a refresher.
I still have some of that, yay.
Yeah, as a little refresher, just...
Blue, black, yellow, white.
This one you can actually get away with just blue and black and some white. You don't really need to add the...
The blue is kind of nice in there, though.
Yeah, you don't need to add the yellow, but you could.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so basically this is probably... Getting a straight line is kind of hard. But one of the things you can do is you can always use a straight edge if you wanted to.
You can just try to parallel the side of the canvas. That helps.
Because we're only coming in about 3 inches.
Yeah, if you place your lighthouse there, but you guys can place it wherever you want.
You can put it wherever you want. If you want to put it on the right-hand side, you can do that too. One of the things that I really believe in when we're doing a landscape is making sure that an item like this lighthouse overlaps our elements in the background. So I want to make sure it at least it's going to overlap our ocean a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's going to overlap our far back sky, and it's got to get up into this cloud a little bit.
Okay.
So you can choose. There's 2 ways to do it. It's usually easier for most people to pull down.
Okay.
So I'm just going to start here. Pull down. Don't worry about what it does at the bottom. This is going to be a couple of different steps of, we're going to build it up a bit. So I'm going to do it.
This is a tall lighthouse.
It is. Kind of an East Coast kind of.
There was an article once that listed a bunch of lighthouses for sale that you could buy. I was like, oh, that'd be so cool.
So the one thing you want to do with this is you want to taper it a little bit. So it's a little bit taller or a little bit thinner at the top. If you want to use a smaller brush to get a finer edge, you can. But a lot of this we'll be able to touch up when we do our highlight and our shadow.
So we're just blueprinting it on.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what I'm going to do, the next step with this, I'm actually going to take my smaller brush because I want to kind of clean this up a little bit. Oh man, so much water on the brush. You can see I just wiped some of that color off at the top. When I pulled my brush out of the water jar, it had a lot of water on it. So I'm just going to clean this edge up. I think this is probably, of all the lighthouses I've painted, I think this is the one I actually looked at a photo the closest.
Oh, you looked at a photo, huh?
Well, I often do. I mean, you don't learn how to paint by just making stuff up.
No, but I didn't know that, like, now that you look at photos here
sure.
and there, because I do too, all the time.
Yeah, I think too often, what happens is people watch Mr. Ross, who I love dearly, and they just think everything comes out of imagination, and it's like, yeah, well, that's great. Once you know how to paint a mountain from looking at pictures, then you can imagine. Well, he
pre-designs it. Like, when we see the show filmed, it's like his third copy of the painting.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to see if I can just hold my brush off to the side. I'm going to actually add a little bit more white so you guys can see this. I'm going to basically take this edge with my smallest brush, and I'm going to extend it up both sides, just keeping this line rolling. And I'm going to create a little horizontal line. We'll darken this up as needed. And then basically I'm just going to put a little pyramid on top. So this, and I'm going to tilt this, I'm going to lift this up a little bit. You pull a Jenny. This little spot right here is essentially where our white area for, in fact, I'll just fill it in. Our white area for our lenses are. Now, one of the things I didn't do in this lighthouse painting is I did not do the light shining out from it. There's a couple of reasons why. A, it's a real quick point A to point B example of how to ruin a painting. It's the kind of thing that takes a lot of practice, I think. Painting light rays and sun rays and things like that take practice. So while I've got this brush, let's go ahead and just do this. I'm going to keep using my smallest brush, and I'm going to take a little bit of black paint, just pure black, and right below this area where I just painted my reflector lens, I'm going to paint a little horizontal black line that extends out maybe a little 1/8 of an inch or so on either side, and then tapers back.
So this is the little area with the fencing.
Yeah, and I thought rather than taking the time to paint all the fanciness, my horizontal line is so
keep it simple.
Yeah. Don't get too exaggerated with this. This is just enough room for one person to walk around the outside of this lens to work on it. It's not a driveway. Got a little bit of it. There we go. You can always touch all this stuff up. And I'm just going to kind of pull a little angled line back into my lighthouse. And then I'm going to take this black, create my cap. Take all the time you need. Pause it if you want to. Create my little pyramid cap there. A little black line on either side. There. Now, when we're going to come back and we're going to add highlight and stuff like that. I'm going to go back to my medium-sized brush. We need to build this little house that's next to it.
And what color are you using?
I'm using the same color that we used
for the lighthouse?
To block in the lighthouse, yeah.
This is the living quarters for the person who runs for the lightkeeper.
Yeah. Let me go a little bit higher and just knock it in here. I'm going to take a little bit of black and create the roof. So I'm going to get that reflection going. That's pretty good. So that's a good. How long have we been doing this?
We are at 7:30, so an hour.
Oh, we're knocking this out. We're going to let that sit for just a little bit. We're going to come back, and when we come back and add our highlights, we can add a shadow too, and then we can kind of clean up our edges. Now, do we have no, I think the original's way over in the other part of the studio.
I can get it. What are you looking for?
Well, there was the sample version I did, and then there was the version I did.
Where would it be?
It's probably on the stage on the postal sorting unit.
I'll be back in a few minutes.
Yeah. Well, right now we're just going to kind of let everything dry a little bit. But the very first original version of this painting I did, I was a little bit softer with the windows of our lighthouse, and I feel like that worked a little better. And so hopefully Jenny can find that. While she's doing that, what I feel like this has become too bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften it up. Sounds like she found it already. Do you find it already? No? She's just up there. I just heard her come. We have a little puppy that we bring in with us when we're working the day, and we've got baby gates. So I heard her go through the baby gate. I'm gonna mix up some of our stormy color again. So I got a little bit of blue, little tiny bit of black, a little bit of yellow, and I want this to be really light. I even got a little bit of red in there from my white. But what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to do what's called dry brushing. And dry brushing means you want very little paint on your brush. So I'm going to wipe off as much of my excess paint. If you run out, you can even wipe it off on your palette or your paper towel. Get a little bit. And I feel like these edges between, let's see how this goes. Yeah. Oh, got to get rid of more paint. Almost none. Some of these edges are a little bit harsh. Did you find it?
Yeah, it's a bit different.
Huh?
It's a bit different.
It is.
A little bluer.
Yeah, it's a little stormier.
Softer.
So here's the very first original, the prototype, and you can see that the I like them both the same. Mm-hmm. They've got different
Your
elements.
front waves are a lot more detailed than the new one.
Yeah.
I like that better.
But what I like about this lighthouse is it's softer. Mm-hmm. I feel like the lighthouse in the one that is this one, which is the one we did.
I like that one too, though.
This one to me feels a little bit too bold compared to everything else that's around it, whereas this one feels like it just fits right in. So what I've done, Jenny, is I've mixed up this really pale color, the stormy color.
Okay.
And I'm just using this to soften up some of my edges in the sky.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be pretty pale.
Yeah, it's got to be really, really pale.
Not a lot of paint.
Yeah, we're doing, I was telling him that we're doing what's called dry brushing.
Okay.
You know what dry brushing is, so I don't need to tell you. And dry brushing just basically means you've got almost no paint on the brush, and it's just a very subtle little shift in what's going on. And I really feel like this needs this along our horizon line.
Oh, yeah, like the horizon just sort of fades out.
Yeah.
I love that when you can see that like you're looking out at the ocean and there's no sharp edge, it just kind of fades out.
Yeah, so you can actually, when you're coming along this horizon line, you can kind of do this dry brushing both into your water and into your sky. Just a little soft little nudge. Do it to soften up all the edges of these clouds.
I remember one time at Depot Bay, which is where all the fishing boats come in, sitting there up above behind the concrete railing and watching, there's this giant wall of fog. And it looks so ominous, and it literally is like just a tall wall, like you imagine the wall on Game of Thrones.
We should start watching that tonight.
So anyway, and you see nothing, you see just big wall of fog, and then suddenly there's a boat popping through, and they just kept over and over and over coming through. It was the coolest thing to watch.
Yeah. I like to do that too. Okay, so sorry, it is fun to watch.
It is.
Just do you remember when we went fishing with my dad out there and he was throwing potato chips to the seagulls, and like the seagulls were just like,
suddenly there were like 25 seagulls following the boat.
Like, we got chips over here.
What'd you do, Dad? Nice one.
All right, so I'm gonna rinse my brush really well. If you guys have a clean brush that you haven't used yet, this would be a great time to use that. But I'm just gonna give my brush a really good rinse. Really good pat dry. So there's something that comes up where when we've been using a brush, we've got dirty water. We got wet water and dirty dirt. But you got dirty water, and people are scared of trying to use white. And I've got a tip for you. Pro tip. Just get your brush as clean as you can. Then what we're going to do...
Tip?
No, that's part of it. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to get it as dry as I can. And you can see the more I dab it dry, the less pigment comes off. You can see. Mm-hmm. But the main thing is I'm going to get enough paint on this brush that my bristles really won't interact with the canvas. So I'm going to insulate the brush with paint, and I'm just going to lay this paint right on top in some of this area, just pure white. There we go. See how that just brightened that up really quick?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to have pure, clean, pure water. It's a matter of what you want to do is you just want to have enough paint on the brush that you're not touching the bristles to the canvas, and you don't want to push down hard. Just let some of that paint just sit on top. There we go. You can add a little bit on your water too, and if it does get a little bit faded out in your water, that's okay. Water's not going to be as bright as the sky. Just going to add a little bit of this white in line with that white I just put in. There we go. That's good. Happy with that.
You have to turn around because my light.
Oh, you got the glare. You know what we just need to get more lights in here.
Yeah.
It feels like we get dialed in on the equipment, and then it's like, oh, let's just add more. Let's just add more. Could we keep going? Yeah, but we want to be professional. Like, we are professional, but we want to be
gradually figuring
hey,
it out.
Let's be honest. Our photo quality and everything's better than Bob Ross had.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Quit picking on Bob.
No, I mean, they didn't have HD back then.
No, they didn't.
All right, so we have got this little, we're going to start working on some of our waves in the foreground. Now, the waves are kind of something that can be a little bit tricky, but in this case, we don't really have a lot of waves to deal with. If we look at the, let me see, which original do I want to look at? I'll just look at this one.
Your cloud was a lot lighter on that one.
It's got more of the blue mixed in, and you guys, you could do that if you want.
It is kind of neat to see, just like in the studio when we do classes with 32 students, to see the differences between.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, this one's got very little of that yellow. Mm-hmm. Very, very little of it. In fact, and I think actually the one I'm doing tonight has more than even. Got more than this one does even. And it's all okay. I think it's kind of nice because it kind of shows, it's nice. It shows people that that it's okay if it's not exactly the same as what I'm working on. Because even my own are different. So, but what I want to do is we're going to create, we've got this dark line that goes across there, and we're going to start off there by creating a little bit of the idea that it's kind of got a crest to it. So I'm going to take my smallest brush. Now, smallest brush can be different things. My smallest brush I've got, what is this, number 1?
Yeah, but the numbers are kind of...
Numbers are different. If you've got like a really fine line...
I've got, this one, number 4, would be a good one to use for what you're doing here.
A flat brush.
If you've got the red set.
You've got this thin edge. Mm-hmm. Do you have your tiny brush? Mm-hmm. This would probably work, but some people have tiny, tiny, tiny little like number zeros and stuff like that. You don't need that. We just need something that's maybe 1/8 of an inch or so. And I'm just going to take a little bit of my white, just pure white. We're going to be working with pure white for most of these waves here.
So we're creating the crest of foam, right?
Just going right across the top here. And what I like to do is it's really easy to just kind of do this and have a line. Mm-hmm. And that's okay, but it's kind of cheesy looking too. So I'm going to wipe my brush off, and I'm just going to take my brush very lightly and just kind of smudge a little bit the top edge. So what it does is it kind of creates a little shelf for us. So that looks a lot better than just a straight line. So all I've done is I've just kind of smudged this out and blended it out just a little bit.
Because when you're looking at a wave that's cresting, it's never perfectly flat on the top.
Right. Right. One of these days, I promise we'll get into a great crashing, cresting wave. It's something I'm still learning.
You know, someone on Reddit the other day posted a quick video clip from. Do you remember we watched that surfer documentary where they're like in South America with those huge waves? Nope, it was not that one. It was something different.
Okay.
It was. I had forgotten about it. They were like in South America surfing these huge waves.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, some of the biggest waves are in Portugal, of all places.
That's where it was. It was Portugal.
Yeah, that's not South America, though.
Oh, sorry.
That's Europe.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Sorry. Don't mean to be like tossing you under the bus on that one, but I feel like there's a certain level of responsibility that we have to be at least somewhat accurate on what continent a country
Why
is
did
in.
I think they were in South America?
Well, they had been in South America because there had been some down at the point of Argentina.
Okay.
Yeah, but the biggest waves, yeah. All right, sorry guys, we're getting sidetracked.
I'm sorry about that.
Getting sidetracked here. So what I like to do now is I like to imply that this wave is kind of crashing into rocks. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the same small brush and just somewhere in here where I feel like maybe it's making contact, I'm just going to start adding some fluff.
While you're doing this, that documentary is on Netflix. It's called Magnetic. You remember that?
No.
I swear we watched it.
You watched it without me.
Okay.
So it's just a little bit. One thing that I think is really interesting is if you ever get a chance to just go and watch waves crash into rocks and stuff, they kind of recoil back. They kind of bounce off. And remember that time we went down to Cape Kiwanda with your cousins and just...
Yeah, it's so loud. That's what I love, is the deep booming noise. It's ominous and cool.
Real choppy. This almost looks too white to me, but I'm just going to roll with it. If you
got a white bonfire going on.
Yeah, you can always add a little bit of color into this if you need to, just to soften it up. But by the time we get all done, it won't be so bad. Right now, it just looks bold. Do a little bit over here on this other rock. Kind of in between. Don't put too much effort into this. This is not something that's vital to this painting. It helps. It looks nice, but it's not super important.
And probably not a lot of paint on the brush here.
Yeah, almost none.
Better.
I think that's what I kind of got a little too heavy in this one. Yeah, it works. So the other thing I like to do is like when waves crash over rocks, water kicks up on top and then it kind of trickles down. So I like to take like my smallest brush here and just kind of like add like a little tiny like
waterfall.
Yeah, just like some little areas where the water's trickling down across some rocks here.
That's what it does.
This will look better when we start getting some more of our water down below. You can do a little bit back here too. How are we looking on time there?
7:49.
Oh, we're doing great.
Would you say that if it was 8:30?
No.
Okay, just checking.
No, if it was 8:30, I'd be like, wow.
Well, we need to hurry.
Yeah, we need to hurry.
Okay, cool. I'm liking this.
Some extra little spots of spray never hurts. Yeah, we've got our daughter's at home puppy sitting, so if we were at 8:30 and at this point it would be like,
That's good.
Yeah, all right, cool. So the other thing we're going to do is we're just going to keep adding some more of this wave detail. And I think this is what's going to, this is what's going to separate our waves, our water from our rocks. And what I'm going to do first is I like to kind of look at like, okay, this is a point here. It looks good to me to kind of tie it in across. So I'm just going to take some white. water's kind of coming in at an angle. Yeah, it could be a little flatter. But just like we did before, I'm just going to put some of this white on here like this. And like we did before, I'm going to wipe my brush off, and I'm just going to smudge this back edge. You can always add more white to the leading edge if you need to. But smudging this back edge out is really important. It's what keeps it from looking like it's just a stripe. And just the stripe works too, but this just looks so much better to me. This is where I want a goat hair brush where I can just beat it up.
Okay, now I know what to get you for next birthday.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to worry about it. They're cheap.
You can buy yourself one.
I literally can buy a good goat hair for less than $3. So, the reason I like goat hair is it's really rough and it takes a beating versus synthetic. We're using, these are all of the brushes that we sell currently are synthetic. Synthetic tends to be a little bit on the soft side, and that's okay. But I like the...
Dude!
Yes.
Who is honking out there?
Somebody's outside honking. Those of you who are not in Oregon who don't know, Oregon has probably been the most restrictive state as far as closing down restaurants and bars. And just this past Friday,
things opened up.
Things kind of started to open up a little bit for the first time in months. And unfortunately, we were completely snowed in with an ice storm for that first weekend. Like literally, there were areas that had close to 2 feet of snow and ice on top of that. So this is the first weekend where people have been able to get out.
This is the first Saturday night in months.
Friday night.
Friday night.
Yeah,
I need to get my brain in order tonight.
Yeah, well, our schedule's weird, but this is the first Friday night where people have actually been able to go into a bar and have a drink.
Yeah.
Since November?
Yeah, before early November.
Yeah, early mid-November. So I get it. People are enjoying themselves. And
what?
Okay.
You're enjoying yourself.
Yeah. That's okay. Smudge it out. All right, nothing lost. So what this does is it gives the impression that this is a shelf of water that's moving in, and then it's got a leading edge. Now what we're going to work on next is we're going to create this back edge where this water interacts with the rocks.
All right.
So again, I'm going to keep using my small brush. Now this is water that's not part of this waves. I don't want very much paint on my brush, but what I'm going to do is my brush needs to go side to side during this whole process.
Okay.
So it's moving side to side. My arm is moving where the brush is, but the brush is always moving side to side. I'm just going to very lightly scribble in and create these little edges of where the rocks meet the water. Now you can once in a while, what looks really nice is if you can kind of very lightly give some little kick up. So it's just a little flick here and there where the water's coming in and it's kind of crashing against these rocks and it's kind of creating some foam and mist and stuff like that. There's our second main rock. I'm going to kind of have to... Don't worry about all this stuff in here. We're going to add some foam in there. You know what's amazing is I was looking at some photos of the Oregon coast, and a lot of these areas where this water's coming in, it's so much foam you barely see any water at all.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like kind of a greenish brownish color.
Yeah, and it's just the proteins and stuff that's in the water create foams. It's almost like a fried egg, almost, for lack of a better term. But what happens is if we were to do it exactly that way, it kind of gets not as appealing looking in a painting. So that's something that I feel like, especially in landscapes, is there's this balance between being realistic and being appealing. Because not everything that's realistic is appealing. to the eye. So we get to put our Instagram filter on it and be good to go. All right, so I'm going to create now some ripple around these rocks here. And what's really cool is I'm going to show you a neat technique here. Again, my brush is moving very side to side, barely touching the canvas. I can use this now to sculpt my rocks. So there, I just created a rock that's standing alone by itself. We can sculpt all this area where things come in contact with the water. And so I'm just thinking about where's the bottom edge? Where's this rock meeting the water? I'm going to have to do this on this side a little bit over here. But this is actually, let me take a second. You got a second, Jenny? I know you do. A lot of times when we're in the studio, people want to follow this top edge of this rock with the water. Well, this rock's 8 feet out of the water. Maybe, might be 3 feet. Doesn't matter. It's out of the water. We're not going to see where the water interacts with the backside of this rock, and this top part is an area that's not in contact with the water. So we don't want to put a ripple around this part here, only around these bottom edges. So you might get a little bit of a ripple from behind, just a little bit. Ripple it, just I heard your eyes roll that time.
They didn't roll.
They literally hit the back of your head. I heard them bonk.
Liar, was just laughing. You totally tossing me into the bus.
I know, I'm having fun with it.
Okay,
You're enjoying
I
it.
can get you back next time.
That's okay. There's no scoreboard, Jenny. It's okay. You're
There is a scoreboard.
You're way ahead in the game. It's good.
So how far in does this water come?
So this is actually going to come in just about to this row of rocks.
Okay.
So now these rocks are smaller, and so I'm just going to kind of create like a little bit of a ripple through here. These are not the big waves like we've got up above.
The tide is in.
Yeah, and I feel like my little ripple that comes across, my wave that comes across here is a little bit too curved, so I'm just gonna doctor that up a bit. There, that's better.
Have you ever been at the beach when there's been, like, down on the beach when there's a sneaker wave? Like one of those giant ones that's like crazy, can suck you back into the ocean?
Probably, but not to the point where I was worried for my life.
I have had that one time. I was pretty young. My uncle rescued me and my cousin.
Wow, that's scary.
It was super scary.
All right, so this area right around in here, around these rocks, I'm just going to take a little bit of this white and just... I got a little bit too much white on my brush. It's okay. Just kind of create some of the smudging going on in here. And what I like to do is in these areas, maybe these are tide pools that are left.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take a little bit of this white. As long as you're keeping this mostly horizontal vibe going, you just throw some little smudges and like so.
This is like the zoomed out version of your Serenity Beach.
It is kind of actually.
Your Serenity Beach painting from, I don't know when.
Or it's the zoomed in version of Lavender Coast.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, so I need to make the Death Star blowing up the lighthouse like I did last time.
Go for it. All right, so these areas in here, we got to put some foam in there. And the way we're going to do the foam is, you could just use the pure white, but I feel like if you add just a little tiny bit of our blue-gray, if you've still got some wet on there, it works better. And you can add actually a little bit of white, a little bit of water, like a little drop of water.
Not wine, water. Oops.
Yeah, not wine, water.
I almost dipped it in my wine.
I did that lot on Tuesday when you were teaching. Totally washed my brush.
Did you?
Yeah.
You didn't say anything.
I drank it. Just to prove to everybody that it's non-toxic.
I would probably have done the same.
Yep. All right. So it's just this very off-white, small brush. And really, it's like, again, you want your brush to kind of move mostly horizontal, but we're just really... You notice that you can't even see my hand on the brush?
Yeah.
While I'm painting?
You should show the original there to show. They're kind of like, lots of little, almost curly Q type of brush strokes.
Yeah, I like this one.
Okay.
Too.
Actually,
Either
I might
one.
switch to my littlest brush.
This one's just a lot of movement, basically. If I show the other one.
Because that's what you see when you see the wave going back. There's lots of like split up areas of foam that's thin on the glassy surface of the water. So you see that. Like.
So this area, we've got a lot of this
swirl.
little ripply, top ramen-y kind of look.
Top ramen.
Yeah. But one of the things that's really helpful for this is I pointed out that you can't see my hand. It's because I'm holding the brush this far back. And obviously if you got a short-handled brush, you can't do that. But I like to do this because it takes away some control. And I feel like when people typically when they try to paint stuff like this, they try to use too much control about what's going on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop a little bit short of this dark area. You can take your brush and give it a quick little flick towards that dark area if you want. Like the water's kind of sucking up into that wave.
The great wave of Kanagawa.
Oh, that's a fun painting.
You should do a replica of that. Although, yeah, that first one you did, our first year of business, was really good.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I like teaching that
There
one.
you go. There's one of our. It's on the public domain. It's one of our. You can do it as one of our Go Box paintings.
God, we haven't taught that one in forever. So again, this is just a lot of little watery chatter. But what you don't want to lose is you don't want to lose these edges. So if you need to rebuild this edge a little bit, you can. This is a good spot. I really need this in here. And if you lose your edge, that's okay. You can always bring some dark back in. This lower area in here, especially in line with our light spot in the sky, can be really bigger smudges. Almost got our Rocky Cove.
Rocky Cove.
I just added a little bit more over in this side over here. Yeah, my yellow's way more intense tonight. But when I lighten up the lighthouse, it probably will not seem quite so bold. So let's take a break from our water.
This makes me want to go to the beach.
Let's do it.
The coast. Yeah, totally. Go to Lunacy.
Like, even if it's just a day drive.
Yachts is a little long for a day drive.
Yeah, but Lincoln City isn't.
Nope, Lincoln City's not too far.
A little over an hour. All right, so I'm going to take my smallest brush, and I like to use my smallest brush for this because I want to have a little bit more control. But I want to just take some pure white.
Well, we hardly use yellow in this.
Yeah.
I think I gave us way too much.
And I'm just going to start putting a band of white right along this edge of this right-hand side of this lighthouse. And I'm just going to wipe my brush off because what I want to do is I want to take a clean, dry brush. You can use a bigger brush if you want, but I'm going to give myself a little harder edge here. But you just kind of want to smudge out this side a bit. It's round. I mean, it's cylindrical, so it's not going to be just a harsh line. But I do like to have this far right-hand side have a really nice crisp edge of white. I think I said that really quietly. Crisp edge of white on this right-hand side. Now, the other thing you can do is there's something that happens when you look at a cylinder. Oh, I got white paint on my fingertip. I got some in the sky. That's okay. Birds. It's seagulls. But you can take maybe some of that color you're just using in.
Look at this lighthouse in France.
Oh, I've seen that picture before.
Isn't that crazy? It's real.
Yeah.
That would be so crazy.
You can put a little tiny bit of this pure white, just the tiniest little streak along the left-hand side too, because it's going to be getting a little bit of
backlighting.
Yeah, like reflective lighting. If you get too carried away, big deal. You know.
It's a lighthouse. It's supposed to be light.
Right. If you get too carried away, you can always bring your darker color back into the mix. And I think that's something that's important to learn about painting is it's very rare that you just lay paint down and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think so often people, again, I'm picking on Bob tonight. Don't mean to be.
Dude, no.
But a lot of people watch Bob and they think it's a one take and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the way it works. Bob was not teaching painting. He was selling product by showing you how it works.
But there's a lot of people that do his paintings.
Oh, for sure.
And I've seen pictures of them. They post them, and that's really good.
It's not a knock against Bob. He was not really teaching you how to paint in his 30-minute videos.
He didn't make any money from his videos. It was all from the art supplies he sold. The Bob Ross paint, Bob Ross easel, everything.
Everything. Bob Ross ink.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I just added a little bit more white in the glow of my lighthouse of the lens. I'm going to take a little bit. I'm going to lighten this up just a little bit so we can see that this is actually a building and not just a blob. Those little white spots, by the way, those were not intentional.
Seagull.
I mean, we could turn it into a seagull if we wanted to. They're out in the sun, so.
Almost went for the wine.
Well, you know, you've got your wine glass about an inch away from your water cup, so. I did turn those into seagulls. I just didn't see a way of
Oh, yeah. I like that.
fixing it. I mean, I could have fixed it, but So I just added a little bit more of the pure white into my center of my lens. And we've got just a couple steps left, really. All we've really got left to do is to put our windows in the lighthouse. And I got carried away with the windows on the lighthouse. I actually like how I just did a few, like 6 on this versus 8. We got a couple of those.
Well, let's see how many and what size are in the French lighthouse.
Probably none, because that thing is a battering ram to the waves.
There's quite a few. There's quite a few on there.
Yeah. So it's up to you. I kind of like the simplicity of the original. Just having 3. You can do 4. When I say 3, I mean 6. 2 rows of 3. Or you can do 2 rows of 4. It's up to you. What I am going to do, is the one thing I don't like about the one I just showed you is I feel like those windows are too harshly black. So I'm just going to mix together our dark stormy color. And I'm not going to add any white. I'm just going to do equal parts black and blue. And I'm going to add a little tiny bit of yellow. And I'm just going to do, again, I'm going to do 3. So I'm just going to use, there's 1. When I say 3 again, I mean 6. 2 rows of 3. 2.
What color did you mix up? Black
About equal parts of black and blue, and I added just a little bit of yellow.
Okay.
Do a couple windows on our little house here. And if you wanted to make it...
I had the water drop thing happen.
If you want to make it look like your... like our lighthouse keeper's home, you can mix up a little bit of about equal parts white and yellow, and you can just put a little...
Oh, yeah, I love doing that.
Little dot in our windows, like so. How you doing, Jenny?
Good.
Good. Looks good.
I'm trying to... My goal is to try to be a little more loose. With my painting, because I have a tendency to maybe over detail sometimes.
Yeah.
And I like the look of paintings that are a lot more loose. So those flower paintings I've been doing this past week have helped a lot.
So I think we've talked about maybe doing some original paintings. These are all originals, but more like full-on gallery type paintings that we would offer for sale via the website.
Oh, yeah. I put the pressure on us by putting it on YouTube.
I know, right? Well, I think we need that pressure.
Yeah, we have a lot of pressure.
No, we don't. You're over detailing.
Shut up.
No.
I gotta add my lights in the window. Okay, so let's get the gold on here.
Yeah, that's actually our last step.
Oh, are we on the last step already?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things we can do. There is one little thing I think looks really good on this painting before we do our highlights. And that is I'm going to take my medium-sized brush. I like to put... It looks really good to me if we can cast a little tiny bit of shadow from this lighthouse onto our rocks from the sun. Now, in theory... Let's do something. Let's finish this up, and then I'm going to go out on a limb and try something.
All right.
Totally extra credit. If we take the same color, though, that we just used, a little bit of black and a little bit of blue for our windows, and if we were to take my brush and say, okay, the sun's going at an angle about like this. So I'm going to go from the middle of my light area to the base of my lighthouse. And my lighthouse is going to cast a shadow.
You're right.
About like so.
It has to be about the width of the lighthouse.
Yeah, and you can take a little bit of this dark color. And it just tilt that. It just makes a little bit of a difference. It's subtle. It's not a big deal. But it's nice. Then using the same medium-sized brush, we're going to add some gold. So we're going to take our metallic gold. Now metallic gold, if you guys painted with us on Tuesday night, we know that the metallic gold doesn't show up very much depending on your lighting. And it's really easy to overdo. So I'm just going to trust myself, and I'm just going to add some on the right hand side of the canvas. So from here over, I'm going to add some of this gold. Let me see if I can tilt it so you guys can, there you can see it really well right there. Little bits of gold on the top edges of some of the rocks and on the left edges. Again, this is something that it's really easy to overdo, so be careful. Little bit on, now when we go over to this side, our light's over here, so we're going to put our highlights on the right hand side of things. Be choppy and uneven with it. We don't want to get too carried away. If you do, just, paint back over it with a base color that you had underneath.
Yeah, that's a nice, easy fix. I don't know, that it would take a lot to go too much with the gold.
I think it just depends
coats.
I think it just depends on where you're hanging it. Because if I turn this like that, and you can really see it really shining, obviously you're not always going to have it so that it's really popping like that. But that's kind of that's what I'm afraid of, is getting too much. And just kind of kiss the top of some of these rocks with it. Mwah. Let me look at my original here. Now, I mean, we're pretty much done at this point. I don't think I missed anything. What you could do, if you were so inclined, this is a great painting I think you could fiddle with a bit. If you like the clouds in this one, you could always mix up a little bit of our stormy blue and kind of put them over. I feel like my clouds are maybe a little bit too pink, but I'm not going to worry about it. I mean, you could really get carried away with the clouds, but we don't need to do that. Now, what I was thinking that we might need to do is maybe this is wet sand down here, so it's going to reflect things. So we maybe need to reflect our lighthouse just a little bit. This is optional. Don't do this. Don't do it until I've tried it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, then don't. If it's a bail for me, don't do it for you.
Yeah, the top edge of the roof of the lighthouse and the lighthouse lightkeeper's house and the triangular part of the top of the lighthouse, those are good areas for gold too.
So all I'm really doing is taking a little bit of white and very lightly in line with what I was doing. Yeah, I don't think you need to do it.
I don't know. It doesn't look bad.
It's up to you.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's totally up to you. I just don't think it really adds anything. So I would probably say don't, because I think it's risky. But if you did, fine.
I did.
But outside of that, I mean, there's really not much else you could do at this point.
Except sign it.
Except for sign it. So I'm going to do that. I typically sign paintings like this just in white. I'm going to do it over here tonight. A lot of people just use Sharpies on the back of their canvas. All right, that's it. Let's see how Jenny did. I'm going to take my palette. I'm going to toss it over here. I'm going to take my paper towel, toss it over there. I'm going to take my brushes there. There's that. Let's bring Jenny's in.
My skinny lighthouse. It ended up really skinny.
It's been on a keto diet.
You know, I really like the way my bottom beach turned out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did really good in this part.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this wave looks awesome.
Yeah, I was happy with that.
All in all.
And look, I put a chimney and smoke on my
There you go.
roof.
All in all, I mean, I think the more we do this, the more our finished paintings look alike.
Isn't that funny? My gold, there you go. I do have gold on there. It's just, it has to be tilted. Yeah, it's because I follow everything you say because I want to learn how to loosen up.
No, I like how you did your reflection of the lighthouse looks better.
So all I did is I used the skinny edge of my brush and just water. It was just slightly damp. And I just went back and forth horizontally.
I would honestly yawn. But I would probably say don't do it.
But add that, because that looks cozy.
Yeah, you can do that. But I just think, I don't know that little reflection adds anything to the painting as a whole. I'm looking at the other finished ones and I'm like, yeah, it's not missing.
I would probably develop my clouds a little bit further, like if I took extra time on this painting. And it was really hard for me because, you know, I love putting little dots and things on my painting. I was tempted to put a few little stars up in here.
Right.
But then I thought, you know, that's too many elements. You got the big band of cloud. You got the sunset, which I like yours a lot better than mine. I felt like I needed to bring a little more of the darker blue in there. And then you've got this all detailed so that the stars would be too much. It'd be like your eye would be confused on where it's supposed to go.
This area, I think that's the best I've ever seen you paint, like that type of element.
I was thinking about that rogue wave I had to be rescued from when I was like 12.
One of these days I'm just going to have to just do like a painting that, you know, our old friend Mr. Ross used to do some great crashing wave seascapes, and I think we'll have to maybe do that. It's big crashing waves are they're a challenge.
When we were in Hawaii, we went to Lahaina, is that what it is?
Yeah.
And what's the guy's name that has a gallery there? He does all those ocean wave paintings.
Wyland,
yeah. He does tropical ocean wave paintings, and they're so cool to look at because he has a lot of those with that big curling turquoise wave, and you see through it, and it's just you see the sunlight coming through the back of it. It's so cool.
I think the thing that's hard on that is getting that light, that wave to feel like light's coming through it. It's really just very dependent on the color you're using. Yeah. But we've got that turquoise color now that would work really well for that.
So we're completely open to suggestions of what you guys think you'd want to paint.
Zoom us back so we're looking at us, our pretty mugs. Hey.
Yeah, we're totally open to suggestions because after, I don't know, a year and a half have we been doing Go Box.
Well, 10 years of doing
painting.
Vine Go. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think would be a good painting to put on, and it doesn't even have to be part of the subscription box. Because we post a lot of content that's not in the subscription box. Like
in fact, I think
kids videos.
We talked about expanding and doing more of our in studio classes as options.
Yeah.
So and I mean we've got how many? I don't know. So a couple hundred.
At least 200 paintings.
200 to 300 paintings.
And they're not all by us. Some of them are artists. In fact, the one we're teaching tomorrow night, the date night painting, is by Annalise, she's our amazing employee who's stuck with us through all the crap of the last year. And
there's been some crap.
Yeah, and her painting it's cute. It's perfect for a date night. So have a look tomorrow night if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Join in if you want. Use your own paints or whatever. We will, once we have the video posted, we'll sell it as a kit if you want to do that, because it comes with a stencil for the elk, and it makes that drawing them so much easier to have that stencil.
Yeah, and if you're just stumbling across us and you haven't seen what we do before, make sure you click subscribe, like the video. If you want to know when we've got other videos, make sure you ring the bell so you get the notifications. And in our description, there's a link to our coffee page.
Yeah,
and if you want
in our Patreon, we appreciate all those donations as our studio's closed, and has been closed for 6 out of 10 months. So this is the way we're making money.
Nobody wants to hear about that.
This is the way we're doing it.
No, but anyway, we appreciate all the support you guys have given us, and we're going to keep rocking and rolling.
Yep, we'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you for tuning in and painting along with us, and keep painting. The more you practice, the more confidence you'll gain, and the better you'll do every time you pick up the brush.
Absolutely.
So we'll see you later.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, going white, going black.
It doesn't matter.
Bye, guys.